You're watching the Real Football Network. I'm John Pollard and this is Real Football Analytics. Today we're going to continue our conversation about team needs in the first round for the upcoming 2016 draft. And today we're talking about the sixth pick in the first round, and that belongs to the Baltimore Ravens. Now the Ravens finished 2015 5-11, and in our overall real score rankings, the Ravens graded out at the 18th ranked team in the NFL. Now on the offensive side of the ball, the Ravens were pretty good, about middle of the pack, ranking 13th. On the defensive side of the ball, the Ravens were ranked 21st. Now, conventional wisdom around the league is that the Ravens have a number of holes to plug. Could be on the offensive line. They could also look cornerback, also on the linebacker position. They have a lot of decisions to make. And in that sixth position, it could be a situation where the Ravens will look at, well, we have a specific need that we want to prioritize, or are we going to look at the best talent that's available with that sixth pick, which is obviously high in the first round. Today we're going to talk about linebackers. This is not a position that we think the Ravens might consider in the first round. However, with the three players that we're going to talk about, perhaps one of these players is someone that's going to make them think about, will they take a linebacker or fill a position need with the best player available, perhaps on the offensive line and the cornerback position. Let's go take a look at the comparative analysis for three of the top talent in terms of linebackers for the 2016 NFL Draft. For the sake of discussion, we haven't had the opportunity to evaluate the top linebackers yet as we've reviewed team needs up to the sixth pick. So we thought we'd take a look at three of the best players in terms of the linebacker position coming into this year's draft. A couple things we want to talk about before we get into some of the numbers. Now, Myles Jack from UCLA was injured in September of 2015, so we've included his 2014 numbers to get an idea of his productivity and performance metrics from the previous year when he had an entire year to play. Leonard Floyd from Georgia, we have his entire 2015 profile. And Jalen Smith, obviously troubling news when he hurt his knee in the Fiesta Bowl during this past January. We have his overall numbers to provide context as we look at Myles Jack and Leonard Floyd. For Jalen Smith, he's got an ACL and an LCL and potential nerve damage. He's certainly not going to warrant a first-round pick. This is going to be potentially a significant rehab situation. But again, we want to see his numbers and use that for context as we look at Myles Jack and Leonard Floyd, two players who certainly could go in the first round. Now, as we look at the linebacker position, we have to consider two parts of the game: the overall run support capability and pass coverage capability. On the tackling side, as we look at the tackling profile for these linebackers, as you can see, Jalen Smith had 113 total tackles for the 2015 season prior to his injury. Myles Jack was second in his 2014 season with 88, and Leonard Floyd 75 in 2015. And if you move down the level to the impact tackle area, now the impact tackle category is something that professional evaluators really like to look at when they evaluate linebackers. To remind everybody, we defined impact tackles as any tackle made 1 or 2 yards from the line of scrimmage. And as you can see, the overall percentage of tackles to impact tackles can be somewhat of an indicator to talk about the instincts of these linebackers in playing the run, recognizing the run very quickly. As you can see, in 2014, Myles Jack checked in with a 10.7% impact tackle ratio. Leonard Floyd in 2015, 18.2%. Almost 20% of all of his tackles are made 1 or 2 yards from the line of scrimmage. That's certainly indicative of a linebacker that can recognize run very quickly and get to the point to meet the rusher very quickly. Jalen Smith also had a big number, 14% on the impact tackle number. In relation to the impact tackles, let's look at the stuff category for these linebackers. Now, stuffs are tackles for 0-yard gain by the rusher or tackles for loss. And as you can see here with Myles Jack's 2014 profile, he had 6. Leonard Floyd, 9 stuffs. Jalen Smith, 9 stuffs as well. All linebackers showing that they have great capability to make plays and create havoc against the run behind the line of scrimmage. Now let's move over to the pass coverage profile for these linebackers. And the first thing we want to jump down to is the burn percentage. That's our metric that we reference quite frequently here at the Real Football Network. We talk about it all the time when we talk about cornerbacks and safeties. Well, again, with linebackers, they have to have both run capability and pass coverage capability, particularly when you consider that the Ravens play in a division where they have Le'Veon Bell and Giovanni Bernard from the Cincinnati Bengals. Look at the burn percentage for these linebackers. Now, Myles Jack in 2014, a 50% burn percentage. In 2015, 53.9. Now, for context, when we're talking about cornerbacks and defensive backs, anywhere sub 45% for cornerbacks is an excellent burn percentage ratio, considering the fact that they have many targets. When you think about safeties, we like to see 48 to potentially up to 60% is not bad. When you're looking at linebackers, very similar to the safeties, when you're looking at a 50% or 50 to 60% burn ratio for linebackers, that's indicative of these linebackers having great capability in protecting the passing game as well by covering running backs coming out of the field or helping with tight ends running seam routes. So these are good numbers for these players across the board. Miles Jack, 50%, as I said, 53.9 in 2015. Leonard Floyd, 53.3%. Now, Leonard Floyd only had 15 targets. When you look at Miles Jack, he had 54 targets for a 50% burn ratio in 2014. That's the number the professional evaluators are going to look at. When you look at 2015, just a bit higher at 53.9, he had 13 targets, still a pretty decent ratio, showing some consistency. Finally, let's look at the passes defense. Miles Jack showing great nose for the ball in the passing game in 2014, getting to the ball and deflecting a pass to create an incomplete pass 8 times in 2014. Leonard Floyd not too bad with 3 and Jalen Smith with 5. Well, there's a look at some of the top linebacking talent for the 2016 NFL Draft. And as we discussed in the open, the Ravens may not go that direction in the first round. Perhaps linebacker is a position they think about in the second or third round. We here at the Real Football Network, we think the Ravens might be in one of the great catbird seats of the first round. The Ravens have need at offensive tackle. They have needs at cornerback. They could always use a young pass rusher to create some more capabilities on that defensive side of the ball. And at that 6th pick, Ronnie Stanley from Notre Dame could be available in the offensive line area. Vernon Hargraves or Mackenzie Alexander at the cornerback position could be available. 2 of the top players rated in this entire draft. And frankly, depending upon what teams do before the 6th pick, Joey Bosa or DeForest Buckner might be available from a defensive line perspective. This is a classic case where a team has to look at all the information and look at their board, and they're going to fill a need based on priority, or is it going to be based on the best talent on the board? Perhaps the Ravens will look at all their information and linebacker might match up. If Miles Jack's available, perhaps that's need and talent coming together and really re-emphasizing that they pick that player. That could happen, but their position's really interesting. The Ravens also might want to consider trading that 6th pick down a few slots when you think about all the talent that's still going to be available in the first 10 to 12 picks and all the areas the Ravens could choose to address. For Real Football Analytics, I'm John Pollard.